marching hearts beat strong and true, unveiling valor in all we do. Stories rise like a morning sun. Together we stand as one. Salute to the brave who light our days, guided by kindness in noble ways. With every tale, the spirit flies.
That's one.
Unveiling valor under open skies. Flags wave proud through winds that cry. Courage lives where eagles fly. Kindness weaves its sacred thread, honoring those who forged ahead. Salute to the brave who light our days, guided by kindness in noble ways. With every tale, the spirit flies, unveiling valor under open skies. Echoes of strength in every word, unfolding voices we've never heard. From battlefield to the home they guard, every soul a shining star. Salute to the brave who light our days, guided by kindness in noble ways. With every tale, the spirit flies, unveiling valor under open skies.
Now my microphone's moving, so that's a good sign. Oh. Oh, I hear Mary coughing.
Yeah, sorry, having a slight situation.
It's not a problem. I'm on time for once.
Well, that's the best part of our own show.
Yeah,
Show don't start till we show up.
yep, that's right.
And things happen, so,
Mm-hmm.
So, welcome to Crackin the Spectrum with I'm Mary and my co-host Rob. Where we talk unfiltered about experiences, about life, and about what it's like to deal with special kids and tips and tricks and different things along the way, and just give that narrative for people for you to see you're not alone. We all have our struggles, and unpack some conspiracy theories in the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's real talk, tough questions, and it's the brilliance of living unmasked. And by that, it's being who you are and not having to change who you are to fit into society.
Mm-hmm. Ah.
And even Josh agrees.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Jesse joining us. Yeah, we've got a. Yeah, Josh is he wanted to go for a ride. I said you had your chance, and so it's too late now. So he's crashing. I gave him bedtime medicine. Then I just took my medicine. So my plan is to be able to sign off at 10:30. I had a good visit with some special needs uh, parents that were on Alignable in a networking thing. So I'm excited to tidy up that stuff. I mean, that takes about a half an hour when you have people that want to connect, and I got to bookmark their thing and do all that good stuff. So
It's work.
it's work. I mean, it's good work, and that's why when you have a special needs child that's pulling you every which direction, you change your way of doing things. That like I can leave the computer on all night and come back, and everything will still be there. Um, and just work on it tomorrow morning. I can you have to think differently. You have to you shape your life around your child. You don't say, well, the computer's got to be shut down. No, it doesn't. It can just sit there and run. Yeah, eventually your power supply is going to go bad, but don't worry about it. And like you take your like when I take Josh, there's certain ways that we go, and I might go a different way because if I go past a place that he wants to eat, then he's going to flip out. So you change you may not go that way, and then you talk to your behavioralist and you think about all these things. Okay, well that's one way to do it, not go that way, but we can also say we're not going there, we're going here. And you can keep explaining that to your child. So there's all kind of ways to do it.
That's it. And it's
Hmm.
so crucial to keep that communication open. I mean,
Yeah.
we forget, when they're babies, we talk and narrate everything. I mean, we
Hmm.
literally live a book in the
Yeah.
sense that everything we do, we talk.
Yeah.
Mommy does this, daddy does this. And but as they get older, we forget to do that.
Hmm.
And you become more mindful of it, with special needs kids and start doing it again. And then we forget why our children don't use pronouns and talk in person. They talk in third person because we talk in third person.
Yeah. Hmm.
How y'all doing tonight?
Hi, Jesse. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Just got my leg propped up where a heat pad on my knee.
Hmm.
Yeah, found out I went to the knee doctor Monday and found out I broke my kneecap.
Hmm.
I'm not sure exactly when I did it, but it was between December and well, last, last month. So I don't know how long I've been walking around on it like this, but oh God, does it hurt like a dickens.
Hmm. Hmm.
Remember, rotate heat and ice. Don't just keep heat on it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just got through with the ice a little while ago, so I've got the heat on it now. So, oh Lord.
So, one of the things we want to talk about today with Memorial Day approaching, then it's 4th of July, school gets out, things like that. Um, Services start changing a little bit. You know, when most families are focused on cookouts, vacations, fireworks, the rest of us are navigating overstimulation, daylight longer, you know, so kids are up longer, disrupted routines, and a lot of emotional regulation challenges.
Hmm.
And this is where we got to look at different things. You know, a lot of emotional weight doesn't come in words. Unlike therapists who want you to, they focus so much on this, in reality is it shows up in little things like sleep issues, um, behavioral issues. They start acting up and even shutting down completely.
Hmm.
And this is where you got to start out each day with calm and soft and, looking at different things differently and try to be a little more patient and understanding.
Hmm.
And then, it's how do we explain to our kids what Memorial Day is?
Yeah.
Because a lot of sensory kids feel more and they take things a different level.
Hmm.
So it's walking with kid gloves to explain that, and one of the great things to do, especially, you know, after like after all the hoopla, the 21 gun salute, the pomp and circumstances, the honoring, all that stuff, is taking them to the cemetery later and just having that letting them sit and just reflect and absorb that energy.
Hmm.
No, not forcing them to participate, but just letting them be.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have any traditions, Rob, for Memorial Day?
No, my dad was he was in World War II, and so we never did much of it. I don't remember doing any Memorial Day. We didn't go to the cemetery. Um, we didn't do any stuff like that growing up. Um, my parents were more into church things. They were Catholics, and then they got saved and did the charismatic stuff, and so yeah. I mean, as a young kid, I'd get my holidays mixed up: Labor Day, Memorial Day, and I don't know if that's an ADHD thing. Um, like my mother used to get the Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the East and West, and all that. So it's interesting.
Well, a lot of people mix them up.
Okay.
It's a very common thing. And you always think of Memorial as ending. Well, it's the end of school year.
Yeah.
And Labor Day is a break from work. My mom always called it the break from kids because it was the last day before school started.
Yeah.
So her Labor Day was actually the day after Labor Day
Yeah.
because all of us
When
kids were gone.
right. Hmm. Yeah. And so, what's the difference? I was going through my memes, and I had Veterans Day memes and Memorial Day memes,
All
and
right.
so I think I understand the difference, but explain that to me to our audience.
Yeah, sure. So there's 3 holidays. So you have Memorial Day, um, Armed Services Day, and you have Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Armed Services Day is in honor of all military branches and active duty.
Mm-hmm.
So they're to celebrate everybody who is in the military currently.
Right.
Memorial Day is for all those veterans and soldiers who have passed away,
Yeah.
either in the line of combat or, um, you know, old age or however they pass away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're gone but not forgotten. And then
Right.
Veterans Day is to honor all veterans who have served that are still alive.
Okay. So what's the difference between the first one, Veterans Day, and Armistice Day?
Armed Services Day
Arm-
was designed to unite all the military branches because there's a little bit
Okay.
of animosity between the branches. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be, but it's also to honor all the sacrifices that current service members face.
Yeah. So it,
Instead of thanking them for their service, you thank them for their sacrifice because they're giving up their life, they're giving up their families, they're
hmm
giving up everything to serve their country.
right. Yeah.
And it was created because originally we had Army Day, Navy Day, Marine Day, and it was a day that was celebrated. And we all still celebrate them in those branches. Like we celebrate the day the Army was founded, or you
hmm
celebrate the day the Navy was founded.
Yeah.
But it used to be a big national thing for each branch.
Yeah.
And then they just converted it to an Armed Services Day after the war to thank all the soldiers
hmm
who didn't um, leave the military right away.
Yeah. To honor those instead of just doing the minimum required to get their college paid for, or just during wartime, just doing the whatever they got drafted for, the people that stayed in and made a career out of it.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, and I
So
think, yeah, yeah.
go
I
ahead.
mean, we need to. I like to. You have a day off, and you got a chance to go on vacation. You got a chance to make some money if you're a service. If you're in the service industry, you can make a bunch of money on these holidays. Like I'm thinking about, I've got like yard sales. There's a lot of people that do a lot of yard sales on these Monday holidays. And let's just keep, and I'm glad that what you're doing, Mary, with the flags, let's put the flags out on the cemetery, and let's keep this holiday from being corrupted from, cookouts and a day off and sales and a chance to get stuff done to what it's all about.
And that's kind of the sad part is so a lot of organizations like the VFWs, the American Legions, they used to hold parades to honor the soldiers.
hmm
And they put the flags go at half staff. And then they put a flag out at every veteran's tomb. And not just that, but then certain areas have events like the Naval Park has a big event for all those who have died by suicide.
hmm
And so they put out 2,500 flags, which represents each soldier that passes away in a year.
Yeah.
And it's on average 2,500 a year pass away from suicide that are
Yeah.
labeled as suicide. And
Yeah.
so they're been looking for people to help put the flags out.
Yeah.
And so we did it a couple years ago, and we were part of the organization, the Battle Within, and part of the memorial service for the Naval Park. And I took my kids there, and my son loved it. And
hmm
he had so much fun actually just taking flags and putting them every so many inches apart and straight lines and, doing the OCD thing.
Yeah.
So I came up with an idea to help recruit families with, special needs to be able to help do this. It used to be a Boy Scout thing. Boy Scouts used to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
And somehow, somewhere along the line, a lot of our Boy Scout troops don't do community service anymore. They're very lazy.
Yeah.
And so we're partnering with different organizations and different VFs and things like that to help place flags on soldiers' graves
Hmm.
and be part of the opening ceremonies like the national anthem.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we need to talk about is preparing them for these events when you see all these people flocking and being able to have that safe space available for them to be able to hide in. Um, weighted blankets, headphones for listening because you do the 21 gun salute, which can be loud. You've got
Hmm.
taps,
Yeah.
which can be very confusing for a sensory kid because you have it designed the way taps is designed is one person's at one end of the cemetery, the other person's at the other end. It's like an echo.
Hmm.
To a lot of us, it sounds cool, but to some kids, it's confusing because they're hearing it different ways.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to be mindful and, making sure that we are listening to their needs. If they need to leave, to not put our needs in front of theirs and giving them the space to take a step back.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you know, um, if you talk to the the event coordinators ahead of time that you're bringing your children, they have these needs, they will allow you to park closer to the site so that if they need to go hide in the car, they can go hide in the car.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just being open to the area and explain to the individuals involved in it, what accommodations can we make? Can we work together to figure it out?
Yeah. Hmm. And
I'm
I.
partnering with a few organizations to start putting up sensory zones
Hmm.
at these events so that because a lot of times these events are not just a 5-10 minute thing and they're an all-day event. So a place for them to reset if they need to.
Yeah. And it's also for you'll have. I mean, on some of these events, do you have people that come at different times of the day?
Yeah.
And so you're going to have a rotation of kids that mom and dad want to do this, and it's part of their day, so they can go and
Well, the kids put the flags out this weekend, so they're done before anyone shows up.
good, okay,
So it's more people who want to go see these events and go
hmm,
honor the soldiers and be part of things.
yeah,
And a lot of parents like to bring their kids because it's an educational experience.
hmm,
Like my goal is someday to take my kids to Arlington and to see the actual events of the Tomb of the Unknown.
hmm,
That's a ways down the road, but that's
yeah,
my goal someday.
hmm, yep. And if you have a lower functioning child like mine, a child that I mean, that's the balance of like with my son that does he really understand war and death and why we're doing this? And so I have a range of emotions. I'm a very sensitive person, so why would I want to traumatize myself by trying to explain something to him that he's not going to really understand or that I'm assuming he won't? That's my limiting beliefs of him and an excuse not to feel this pain myself because I'm a very sensitive guy, and then when you have um, like when I try to take my son to the store, is it really worth it? And then you get into this other thing, like I wanted to take him to the amusement park, and I thought, well, he'd really like go on this ride. Once he get on it, he'd love it. He just doesn't understand what we're doing, and that was about me. So I think that with some of these things, you have to balance out. Um, I want to really do this. Is it and it is it best? Is it a good idea? Is it more for me? Is it more for my child? How much education does my child really understand? Can I can I take the easy way out and watch it on TV? I mean, there are a lot of people, and what popped in my head is you can do Mass of the Air, and Catholics can do Mass of the Air instead of
Hmm.
going to church. But Mass of the Air is for the shut-ins and the people that are sick, people that are laid up, like Jesse with her knee. They can do that. So let's think. Um,
But there's nothing wrong with skipping certain things because it's not accommodating to the needs of the individuals.
hmm hmm
Like my daughter will go with me to church. My son doesn't.
hmm
So that he don't
Yeah,
believe, it's too much.
yeah,
Everyone moving around, getting up, getting down, um, the music, people singing off key.
hmm
Mom's one of those.
hmm
All that's way too much for him and he gets overwhelmed.
yeah,
So he don't go. But my daughter does, and she struggles, but she still makes manage through it. But we also go to a very small church. So like on
hmm
average, our congregation is only like 10 people.
hmm
It'd be nice if the whole family could go. I'd love for my whole family to go. We try taking him every so often, but you know, you just gotta know your limits. And when it
yeah,
comes to things like Memorial Day and other things like that, it's no different than seeing it on TV.
hmm
It just depends on what works for you.
yeah,
Like different amusement parks and things like that. They have special days or special hours a few times a year for autistic and special needs kids,
hmm
where they
yeah,
only allow so many people in. They don't have the lights flashing as much. The music's turned down a little bit softer.
hmm
And a lot of times those events are free. It's the same with going to
hmm
the zoo.
yeah,
A lot of zoos have, autistic day or whatever, so that um only those families can go and they get in for free.
yeah,
So
hmm
it's always, a good idea to check it out online or call them first.
yeah. And the movie theaters and do that, and then some of the local plays here, they'll have an autism sensory friendly presentation of the play where they can accommodate, and that's one of the great, autism is a good thing to have in the sense that there's so much of it out there that people are ready to make accommodations and support.
And that's the sad part about it is not what you said, but you know, a lot of businesses, a lot of other places are willing to make support. They're willing
hmm
to adjust their stuff to make accommodations for them.
hmm
But our school systems and our society are still not there yet. At school, it's all about making them normal. It's about
Yeah.
them obeying commands. Same with society and parents. We put them in therapies to make them normal and teach
Right.
them not to accept who they are. It's about how we can be comfortable around them because we get embarrassed by them.
Yeah. And that's the struggle that the higher functioning kids um, have, like your daughter, about do they get into masking, and that's a and so I want the parents of the higher functioning kids and adults to, this is your child. Um, I'm proud of them. I'm not, and I want to, and I'm not going to be embarrassed. I'm not going to hide. You go to a family restaurant. I mean, Josh let out a yelp, and I was thinking, well, we might say indoor voice, but on the other hand, we're at a family restaurant. I mean, there's lots of kids running around doing all sorts of, and that's what kids do. And when you go to a family restaurant, so if you've got a special needs child, my projection is don't worry about it. Let them. Let's not mask. Here, I just got that piece that if you're trying to get your children on the spectrum to not be loud at at a family restaurant, then you're masking, and just let them be loud. I mean, Josh was, and if they're going to have a fit, I mean, Josh let out a yelp, and the whole restaurant got quiet, and that the waiter he came rushing over here really quick, and it helped. So that's fine. Let's not mask, and that's the deal where I guess the families of the higher functioning are trying to balance out. Well, I want him to be able to make money, and I want her to survive. I want her to understand things. So this is how we operate in the real world. And so you do that from a place of gold versus a shadow. Well, I'm embarrassed, and they've got to behave like normal kids, and they could be in denial that the child's got a problem. And hopefully that's what I do as a coach, that I help the families through that 3-year stage of denial from diagnosis to this. And I want mom and dad to stick together and teach them the conflict resolution skills so they can they've got their stuff to deal with while they're dealing with the stuff their children are dealing with.
And and part of the masking, and yes, we all want our kids to succeed, but there's a line between learning how to overcome and integrate and understand what your body's going through to deal with the situations
Hmm.
without having to mask.
That's right.
And this is
Yeah.
where having more than one kid on the spectrum, or even having, one special and one typical or regular, is a lot of times that regular one develops the masking as well.
Hmm.
Or the one that's not as bad off. For instance, my daughter, because she is higher functioning, she would mask a lot of things because her brother needed so much more help.
Yeah.
And so she always felt like she didn't want to impose because her brother was special and her brother needed more help. And so she always tried to be the big girl. And finally this year she came to basically a burnout,
Hmm.
and her brain just shut down. She just was done with everything. And finally got to see it, that she wasn't coping as well as we thought she was. And
Hmm.
had to sit her down and explain to her that you're just as important and your needs are just as important as your brother's. And we
Yeah.
can't fix problems if you don't tell us.
Hmm. That's right. And siblings, and that's one of the things that I coach is I help the siblings when they're young and they're going through what your daughter's going through. And then when they get older, then they feel like, well, I've got to stay in town. I can't go work very far away, states away, other side of the planet. And so I encourage the parents to get everything in place to say, look, we're putting together a team and then you can come along and help with the second phase of that team, and you can be your sibling's going to have these medical problems, so why don't you think about that? We want you to have your life and get married and have your kids, and we're going to try to have everything in place. And so that gives that's that you're doing that from a place of gold instead of panic. Well, you can't go work out of town. What if we need you?
And that's just, the sad part and the scary part is that so many times it's like automatic,
Yeah,
assumed, especially if there's only one other sibling. You're going
yeah,
to take care of your brother. You're going to take care of your sister. You're the one that's, we're not going to be here forever. So you're the one that's going to have to take that responsibility up.
yeah. And it's a and when it's a the subject of depression and suicide, that one of we don't want we don't want our because the parent would feel terrible if their only other sibling who they planned on taking care of their child committed suicide or was killed in a car wreck, and you have to have lots of plans in place.
And that's the part that um, there's so many great people out there that help you put all those things together.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm working on the resource website, and I met another lady tonight that helps with that. And so you put together that stuff, you pay off get your house paid off, and you have your wills, and you have your trust, and you put everything in the trust, the house and in your wills and all that, and you have that set up, and the money part's easy. It's always putting together your team of people and then thinking where you're going to live. You sometimes I know families that have moved to different towns because there was a facility or an opportunity for their child in that town.
And that's, the thing is, putting all the pieces together. And
Hmm.
nothing has to be set in stone either.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why you're flexible. It's not a sprint race. It's a marathon and it's an obstacle course. Like in the army, they throw out different things to to get you to be mobile and be ready for different things that's going to pop up. And that's the same way. And if you can have peace and joy in your heart, and I'm very religious, and I find comfort in that, and if you can just find support and have a plan and understand you're going to have your good days and bad days. Your child's going to your scary days, and then there'll be days when you meet a bunch of people and you get stuff in place, and you feel like I've got these people to call on to help. Look at these long lists of organizations, and then work on, even if they have different theories. I mean, I like the Jewish folks who have these grand debates about the scriptures and do all that, and they're having fun while doing it. Uh, they're not when you debate. Hopefully, when you when you're debating that religious stuff, you're doing it from a place of joy, and so you can have just be nimble and be ready to soak up all the good information and be ready and just look at the people that are in the parent ego state that either want to tell you this is what you got to do, or I'm going to help you from the helicopter phase. And then you've got some of us that are very tired and we're going to step into our child state. Well, I don't feel like doing all this homework. I just want to relax, and I'm going to take my son for a nice long ride, and I'm not interested in homework today. So you kind of stay in the adult stage, and you can, if you see an organizations as a whole can lose their way and get into being the parent stage. So you can just have peace and joy in your heart, where you can soak up the good energy from wherever people are coming from. Yeah. Well, let's see.
When did mothers become the keepers of lost things?
I don't know. Mothers become the keepers of lost things, or the finders, the keepers of lost things. Like with Josh, the fun thing we did, we went out in the yard, and he was throwing the toys over the fence the opposite way he threw them a few minutes ago, and they're still out there. So that was exciting. That's a so yeah. It's hard to you have the current toy, and with the children that have high needs, then they do some strange things. Like my son, he wanted this toy, and he likes to throw him. Let's see, there's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 or 9 places, and
I'm
when he's demanding that toy, then he's gonna. I go find it. Because I say, well, look for your toy. Where is it? Pull me, show me where it is, and then like he'll throw it under the door of a door, and then I make him. I just stand there until, what are you gonna do with this door? And he'll do the open sign. So yeah, the finder of toys. The mothers are the keepers of lost things. Yes, and I don't think from your question, did you sign up for that responsibility?
Just um my son or my daughter, every time she loses something, she comes to me.
Hmm.
I lost my remote. Great. Go find it.
Yeah, yeah. I know a story that popped in my head. In the plumbing business, one of our guys said, "Well, just instead of picking up the radio and calling the office, sit there and think a minute. How can I solve this?" And I think that that we lose certain skills, and the people we worry about Chat GPT, that are we losing skills, and GPS, we've lost the skills to read a map and all that. So it's good to work on doing stuff the hard way. Um, so yeah, and you have to, and like all my speeches, you have to have a balanced approach to that. What I want to understand how this stuff works, and let's think about it. Let's be ready for a challenge. Let's use it as homeschooling and teaching. And then something, like, why should I learn to program Windows 3.1? I mean, learning DOS, this operating system and commands, once Windows 3.1 come out. Why do we have to know how to do DOS? Well, we don't. We can let that go. but understanding how to read the map, um, understanding your directions, I think that's a good idea. I
It
mean, in
is
homeschooling,
slowly.
Mary, you got the SUV with the knobby tires, with um, the camouflage. And I don't know if you're doing Desert Storm or World War II, but in the front of that, you have does your minivan, your earth mover, does it have the directions like north and south, like the compass? And do you use that for homeschooling?
We use an actual compass for
Even
something.
better.
My kids learn that. So to I did this to keep them entertained. They
Hmm.
started when they were little.
Yeah.
And so I would go hide things out in our backyard. And I taught them how to count their feet, their steps to figure out
Wow.
distance. Gave
Yeah.
them a map with points on it. Gave them a compass and taught them how to follow a map. And
Good.
so their reward was they had when they found they got parts of a thing.
Hmm.
So it'd be like different toys you had to put together.
Yeah.
By the time they were done, they would get the reward, the whole reward.
Yeah. That's great. And that's one of the things that us that the good thing about homeschooling is you're thinking outside the box. You're not automatically we got to go to school for so many hours, and the bell rings. We go from one class to another, and that system was they wanted worker bees to be used to doing the same thing in the factory. So when you think outside the box for homeschooling, what they do is how can we do math and how can we calculate? We're doing all this stuff outside along with our book work, and our book work doesn't have to be 8 hours. So we're thinking, and when it comes to uh, special needs, then everything can be a teaching moment, and we can organize this. And let's not be the parent, uh, the drill sergeant parent, or the helicopter parent. Let's not be the drill sergeant teaching parent all the time. Let's be the adult and let's have fun and let's use our magician energy. Well, how can we make a lesson out of this and have fun at the same time? Because your children are they're in the children stage, and let's have fun and let's learn. And
Mhm.
we can step away from the drill sergeant teaching role and says, okay, I'm going to be in the adult and I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to bring my child along with me and do some teaching.
The
Just kind
thing
of,
is when
hmm,
you got special kids like this, it bites you in the ass. I'll tell you that now. Because
yep,
they're smart.
hmm,
So, like, we learned the Constitution.
good,
Um, yes, sort of. And
hmm.
you'll understand why I say sort of in a minute. And
Well,
so
yeah, I'm
we
tracking what's
watch
coming.
different shows like Liberty Kids is a phenomenal program from like the 2000s, 90s that
Hmm.
explains the revolution and the Constitution. And the kids
Hmm.
loved it. And then, we started explaining more things about it. And then, so my daughter was having issues with one of her teachers when she was going to brick and mortar school. Or no, it was an
Hmm.
online school.
Yeah.
And so she comes up to me and she goes, "Mom, you're a soldier, right?" And I go, "Yes, why?" Knew something bad was coming. Don't
Hmm.
care. You
Yeah.
kids never ask questions they don't know answers to. They're like lawyers. The
Yeah.
rule of being a lawyer is never ask a question unless you know the answer.
That's right.
And so she's 7 years old and she comes to me and she goes, "So mom, as a soldier, it's your job to protect the Constitution, right?" I go, "Yes, why? We just learned this, you know this. Why? What do you want?" Because
Yes.
I know something's coming.
Something's
Okay.
coming.
And I want her to get to the point. So she goes, "So I'm covered under the Constitution, right?" And I go, "Sort of. You're underage, so it's kind of a gray area. Why?" So she goes, "So, mom, as a soldier, it's your job as a soldier to protect the Constitution. And it's your job as a soldier. We've now just bypassed mom. Mom doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We're going military mode now. So it's your job to protect the citizens of the Constitution, which would mean me. Like, okay, sort of. What's your point? And she goes, so because I don't feel safe because my teacher's mean, you cannot make me go to school because under the Constitution it says I have the right to feel safe.
Hmm.
I had to look it up. I wasn't quite sure on that little loophole there.
Yeah.
And she's right in so many words. She's right. She paraphrased it, but yes. And then I'm like, oh my God. Let's just bypass mom. Mom no longer exists. We're calling the army.
Hmm. Yeah. I
What's
mean,
next?
it's
You're
well,
gonna
yeah,
call the Air Force in? You calling the Navy in? What are you calling next?
right. Well, it's. I've heard of people running off to join the circus, but running off to join the army. And she found. So was she was doing this from a place of sarcasm or autism or trying
Her
to.
teacher was very mean in the sense that I was getting triggered listening to her getting yelled at on a computer.
Yeah.
She's not on a brick and mortar, she's literally on a computer, and so the teacher believed that all kids need to sit still with their faces in front of the screen, staring at the screen.
Yeah.
And every time she moved, she blinked, she did something, all you would hear is, "Ariana, pay attention. Ariana, look at the screen. Ariana, Ariana, Ariana." And I'm getting triggered just listening to her hear Ariana out of her voice
Yeah.
repeatedly over and over. And now her class is only a half an hour long.
Yeah.
I'm getting stressed out. I walk by and I just flip the computer closed. I'm like, "You're done."
Yeah.
Said, "If
Because the
mom
teach.
can't deal with it, I know you can't deal with it, and we are not dealing with this today."
Yeah.
And I called the school and talked to the teacher. She's like, "Well, I have a master's degree in psychology. I have been working with autistic kids for 30 years." I don't care. If you're driving me nuts because you're yelling at my child who we know is autistic and cannot focus,
Yeah.
when I warned you all at the very beginning of the classroom, if she is staring at you, she ain't listening to a word you're saying. She is
Hmm.
off in her own little world. If she is doodling and doing something in front of her, she's listening to everything you say. And their whole goal was to get her response rate increased. So we all know there's a delay when it comes to neurodiversity, and a lot of,
Right.
not everybody, but a lot of them, from
Hmm.
the time you say something to the time their brain processes it to the time that they speak back. There's a delay.
Yeah. Right.
Her delay is longer
Hmm.
because she has issues speaking. Her brain moves faster than her mouth. And
Yeah.
so she is one of those that always makes sure she says the right thing. And it's been like that since she was about a year old.
Hmm.
And so um she so her delay is a little bit longer and they don't have the patience to want to deal with her. I'm like, "Yeah, I know it sucks. Yeah, I know it's frustrating when you got to sit there 10 extra seconds. Trust me, I know. But deal with it. It's your job."
Yeah. Um that's what you have to surround. You have to fire people that 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 are immature, that have a power. Well, yeah, to go back to there, she is in the teacher mode. She's not in even, and she is a teacher. Her job is to teach, but what she's doing is she's doing a shadow drill sergeant role, and what she's supposed to do as an adult. She's standing in the ego state of the adult. I've got a job. It's not always fun. I've got to do it. It's like when you're an adult, you go to bed early, you don't stay up late watching Netflix, you pay your bills on time, you you match up your socks and you clean out your gutters. You do your stuff. You throw out your dried up makeup that's and you do the hard stuff as an adult. And and you don't and if you got to put up with a child that you just don't let that bother you. You say, okay, I'm going to be the adult. I'm not going to be the shadow drill sergeant parent role, parent mode, or parent ego state. So and some and I coach people. They got to come to me and say, I've been given this criticism. I don't understand. I don't, but I better work on it. Well, then that's somebody that can not change who they are, but they can change their behavior. They can get this problem out in front of them. But if they don't, fire them
Mhm.
from
I'm
working
one
with
of
their
those that,
child.
if you can't see outside the box,
Amen.
then you just I don't deal with you. I don't
No,
work well with others that have to see the world in black and white, and it has to be only one way.
yeah,
And a lot of people, they do this misconception about, okay, so you're in the military, so that's how you think. And I go, no, we get a mission. We get an agenda of how the mission's going to be accomplished. But in reality, it may not work that way. You pivot, you think on your feet. You are already
yeah,
5 steps ahead,
yeah,
you know. And that's where a lot of people have this misconception about a lot of things, is that we're not black and white. We're sick and
no.
twisted.
Well,
We
that's
also
right.
pivot and think linear, which is why it's so
Hmm.
easy for a lot of neurodiverse individuals to convert and join the military, because it's not much of a lifestyle change.
Yeah, they like the routine, and they like the ability to think on their feet. And okay, we've got a mission to do. There's a few ways to do. We've got our training, but we're ready to be thrown a loop, like the you told me the story of the when you're shooting the guy was shooting the guns, and the sergeant's coming up there screaming at him that you're doing it wrong, even though he was doing it right. The drill sergeant knew he was doing it right. It was stress training. So that's part of figuring it out. And so there's different ways to do it, and how can I handle the stress of things changing?
Mhm. And that's it. It's, so many different variables. And
Hmm.
that's where we get stuck in the whole autism and neurodiversity world, is people think that's black and white. There's only two, verbal and nonverbal.
Hmm.
Or, there's so many variables and different, they come in shapes and sizes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've gotten slack for this, but you know what? Everybody's a little neurodiverse. Everybody's a little weird.
That's
We all
right.
think differently. Some of us just more extreme than others.
Yeah, and I think that's what's good about that we're trying to we're using the term neurodiverse because we're trying to get away from Asperger's, and we're trying to gather everybody under that umbrella. And I think that's a good idea. And then say, well, we're all on the spectrum a little bit. Everybody's got their little quirks. And instead of masking that and saying you must conform, let's just chill out a minute. When and if somebody's do if you sometimes you set a boundary against somebody's bad behavior, and sometimes you have to say, okay, this is who they are. And that's what we in the men's therapy group we would say, after we cleared the charge of anger, do you expect this person to change? And the statement behind that question was, people are not going to change. So, so just clear the charge of energy and let's look at the big picture.
And that's it.
Hmm.
And it doesn't help. We got a lot of crackpot conspiracies out there now,
Hmm.
and more fear propaganda. And
Yeah.
last week, RFK made a comment that really pissed me off more than
Hmm.
normal.
Hmm.
And he basically blamed parents, especially mothers, for their kids being the way they are.
Hmm.
They should have done the research to know that what was in that vaccine, or this or this or this. And unless there are very few defects that can be caused directly from the mother, from actions she caused when she was pregnant, and one of them is
Hmm.
fetal alcohol syndrome.
Hmm.
The other one is addiction.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest of it is a dice of genetics. And if you get sick when you're pregnant, it's not your fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things happen.
Hmm.
And there was I have old books, so I collect a lot of old psychology books and old
Hmm.
health books.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't name by name, but it was idiot savant is what they called it back then.
Yeah.
And it was also mutism, dumb, and mental retardation.
Hmm.
And it basically all describes autism.
Yeah.
They used to blame the cause of it by cold parents, ice or
Hmm.
refrigerator parents, what they called them,
Yeah.
where the mothers were not loving enough to their child.
Hmm.
So it's an age old. Let's blame and it's always been that way. Your kids screw up, you blame the parents.
Yeah.
Sometimes the parents are really at fault, but like the newest, conspiracy theories, fluoride causes autism. But if you actually do the research, the amount of fluoride you would have to ingest, you naturally you couldn't get it. You can't
Yeah.
drink enough water. You can't eat enough stuff that it comes in naturally. You have to be supplementing it with tablets and things like that for you to end up with it,
Hmm.
the toxic levels. And you're going to see effects of it longer before you will know you've OD'd on fluoride.
Yeah.
And these studies that they're coming out with are only, and this is where it's so important when you look at research, you look at how many people were involved in that study.
Right.
Because like the fluoride study, same as the original vaccine study, was only done a very minute population.
Yeah.
There were like 20 people.
Hmm.
You can't base a whole study on 20 people.
Yeah. Yep. You have to stay calm and pray and look at who's funding this and just ask a bunch of questions and then you make the you make the decision and does somebody are they selling you something? Do they have an agenda? And just uh, be able to not be manipulated. And some people mean well, and some people are out to scam you or push an agenda. And so just be ready for all of that, and you can learn something from 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 everything, and there's always a little piece of something you can learn from somebody, even if it's you disagree with them. You can see, okay, well, this is how they shape their argument. This is how they gauged who they were talking to, and so just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean you can't learn from them. And it's all this black and white. It's easy. People want to think things in black and white because it's a it's a lose-lose situation. You want to think in black and white because that's a lot easier. You want to be able to well, I'm a victim of big pharma. I'm a victim of this or that. Then you can be mad, and because the alternative is to say, well, I don't know for sure, which means I'm going to have to do some work, or I'm going to have to leave the comfort of inside this box while I've got everything figured out, and I've got to think outside the box, and that's very scary.
And scary is only the fear of the unknown.
Right.
And taking that first step is always the hardest. And once you take that first step and take the second step, it gets easier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You build on that. You say, well, okay, I'm gonna take the first step, and then you evaluate that. And you think about that, and you take another step and another step, and you have and you are a combination of the 5 people that you hang with, and that includes your online friends. So you may have to step away from those friends or from those hobbies that are bringing you down, that are not lifting you up, and that's scary because that's what's comfortable. It's what you were raised with. It's all about thinking outside the box.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Josh is snoring good here on the couch. He likes to cocoon under the blanket, and I don't. With my bad hearing, we have the music, the noise box, and then the door closed. But that's one of the things when you have a higher functioning child, you get into thinking, like, what if he had sleep apnea? Should we have him tested for that since I've got it? And then I also worry about, I always do this. It's 10:37. I should wrap up, but we can do another show about the fear of, like, if he breaks his arm or breaks his leg, he's not going to understand that he can't stay off of it. Now, I just caught myself that I'm saying a limiting belief. I may be able to explain that to him. So that's good.
But look at
Okay.
any kid though.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids get a cast put on their foot, especially in the summertime, or on their leg, and have to have it replaced because they go in the water,
Yeah.
step in a mud puddle?
Right.
That's no different with any kid, really. But the
Right.
difference is how they deal with it is going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A normal kid, you give them a shot and they calm down, they're good to go. You can set it, but our kids, they have to be put under.
Right. Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
a way, more medical interventions are actually more traumatizing.
Yeah. Yep.
But then what we think is traumatizing may be self-soothing. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, my son goes to the dentist. So getting him into the dentist office is one thing. And then getting him to the chair is a meltdown.
Mhm.
But once they have one of those, it's almost like a stretcher they put him on, and they
Mhm.
wrap him in it.
Yeah.
Getting him in it is a fight.
Yeah.
But once he's in it and he's got that pressure on him, he instantly calms down.
Yeah. That's good. That's like his life jacket that he figured out. Well, I wear my life jacket, and there was the other compression story that you were telling,
Yeah,
and that's and he and so he figured that out or adapted. The did the life jacket story come after he went to the dentist?
it came before.
Okay. Yep. So then okay, this is like the life jacket now,
Yeah.
and his body relaxed into that.
hmm
Hmm.
He's one of those that he needs that pressure. Once he's got that pressure on him, it's a hug and he's calm.
Yeah.
And the dentist is phenomenal. She's sitting there talking to him. She's bitten him a few times, or he's
Hmm.
bitten her a few times,
Hmm.
but each time it gets better. Like one, had a spacer put in because he broke his tooth and had to have a baby tooth removed before a new one came in. So they
Hmm.
didn't want his overcrowding. And so we had to cut that out.
Hmm.
And he panics, but then he calms down afterwards. Like for him, gas doesn't work.
Yeah.
It does nothing for him.
Interesting. Because his brain is moving so fast that the regular brain that's not moving torpedoes away like our kids' brains move, that it doesn't work.
Could be one of the theories that I have is because their brains move so fast, they're burning it
Mhm.
off faster.
Right. Amen. Hmm.
So, we've tried that, stuff like that. But, you know, the alternative is taking him to the hospital and putting him to sleep.
Yeah, and that's what we did we had Josh's wisdom teeth taken out, and we've done that, and then he had the endoscopy, um, and I mean, and so yeah, like the sedation, like we had the same problem. We took Josh and we didn't give him his regular morning medicine, and it took forever to get him under to do the test. So yeah, so when you go to that, give them all their medicine normal. I mean, just be ready to figure out how this is going to work because it may not work like you expect, and then you'll learn for the next procedure or the next time.
That's it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we are out of time for today.
Hmm.
So join us back here Friday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. I'm having a dumb moment.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, you gotta put that sunshine out there for people like me.
Yep,
Hey, we call them pretty face moments in our house.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I do want to say the thing real quick. When you was talking about how how people have society they like to blame the parents about everything. I went through that a lot with my daughter. Being her with her being HIV positive. It's my fault. She was positive. I should never had her because I knew that it was a risk and all this, that, and the other. And sometimes you just got to overlook stuff like that. I know I had to learn to. At first, I used to make me mad as hell, but then I just had to learn to just overlook it.
Hmm.
I did what I thought was right. Plus, I
Right,
mean, I was 6 months pregnant when they told me I was positive. It's too much of a risk to get an abortion in 6 months.
right.
I mean, it could have killed me, you know? And then I
Hmm.
wouldn't be here today, be able to carry on her legacy.
Right. Yeah, a lot of parents they second guess and they blame themselves, and so go on and take care of your child and talk to your coach and your therapist, and go on and take care of your child, Jesse, like you're doing.
Yeah, you just gotta do what you gotta do, you know.
Amen.
So it's like they said, like my favorite saying, it is what it is.
Amen.
But y'all have a wonderful night, and this
Okay.
was another interesting and knowledgeable night that I learned a lot.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you for coming off mute and visiting with us. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
We'll see you Friday. Hope your knee gets better.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Good
Bye.
night.
So have a good day. Have a good night. And we'll see you back here on Friday. Bye for now.
Goodbye. Here we go. Hitting the exit button.